This is Hannah, and I'm very self-conscious about recording in public today. It's Saturday, and I'm an art student in Osaka, Japan, and I'm heading towards Kawachi Gazai, which is an art store in Umeda, but it has other branches. I think one in Shinsaibashi, and I don't remember where the other one is, but this is the one closest to my home, and it's also nearer to my school, so let's go check it out. So my first impression of Kawachi Gazai was that it was quite large, especially for a store that was inside the mall, and it was pretty crowded. So first I looked at the brushes. There were these cool kind of bent handle brushes that I'm not quite sure what they're used for, but I wanted to check those out. And then there were these kind of traditional brushes that look like they have coarse hair but were actually really soft. And then, of course, some calligraphy brushes, as well as other calligraphy tools, some of which I'm not that familiar with. Next, let's take a look at this paint. This is granulated paint by Kuretake. And Kuretake also has this kind of pearlescent or reflective paint that I like. And then of course there's a ton of acrylic paint, acrylic gouache from different brands, but I still have a bunch of Turner acrylic gouache. So I'm not in the market, but they have beautiful Holbein colors featured here. So next time I might get a few. So I liked these little tiny busts. So we actually use these exact same bust statues in my sketching class. They seem to be traditional, I think, Greco-Roman statues, but I never did this in my art school curriculum in the States, but it seems to be common here. Of course, you have your wooden croquis model guy and your wooden croquis hand guy. So now we're in the calligraphy nib area, but I just liked the little sign explaining all the different types. I thought it was cute. There's also ink throughout the shop, some for painting and some more for writing, calligraphy style, but mostly I liked the drawings. I was in the market for some black ink, but I wasn't sure what kind to buy. They have all of these different comic inks, which I assume is mostly used for manga. So I wasn't quite sure what the difference of this ink might be, so I was a little reluctant to try it. I thought maybe it would be thicker or too matte or plasticky, so I stuck with a more traditional ink that looked familiar to me. So this was the one I ultimately chose. It said for drawing, whereas this one said for writing. So that's what I did. Now here's some calligraphy brush pens, which I really like. They have refillable ink, and these are great for on the go. I've just never seen so many before. There was also this Kuretake liner pen that I meant to buy, but I forgot about it. I also just liked that there was art displayed throughout the shop as samples, so not only was it nice to see, how the art could look, but it was also just made the art store really fun and kind of warm feeling. Now we're into the Copic markers. So these are your typical, higher grade alcohol markers, but I liked seeing the packaging and some of the signs that were around these markers. And then there was this book on Copic markers. And also there were some other sketching books, like this one for figure drawing. They also had like your more typical, or at least from my experience, more typical figure drawing books that are classic, like this one, as well as like a book on how to draw flowers with colored pencils. So sort of an assortment of different things. Now here are the sketchbook and paper area. So these seem to actually predominantly be for wet media, which I didn't really realize until now. So they had paper samples, and this was just for, watercolor paper and things like that. And then there was a separate area for more dry media and sketchbooks. So I was a little confused at first when I was looking through these, because it did seem to only be one type of paper. I was looking for some cold press watercolor paper, but I was a little overwhelmed with the amount of choice. Now there's some traditional Japanese paper. I am assuming that it's usually for calligraphy, but frankly I don't know. So maybe one of these days I'll buy some and see how it's different. They also had shikishi boards, which is also more for traditional craft or calligraphy. And then there was another area totally separate in the store with all of these tiny paper, which I really like, and this more thick tiny paper, so hopefully it wouldn't curl like the other ones I've bought. And then also more tiny shikishi boards of different kinds. They're not really different brands, it's different qualities of paper. And then these sketchbooks were in yet another area of the shop. I really liked the size and feel, but I couldn't justify buying yet another sketchbook. So here seems to be the dry media paper. There's sketchbooks, but then there's also a lot of paper that's listed as postcards. So I thought this meant just the size, which maybe it is for some of them. But when I looked at one of them more closely, I actually saw that on the back they have a little space for your zip code. So it's really a postcard, which wasn't really what I wanted. So I went back to the wet media area and I got some postcard paper that I like to use for just quick sketches. And that's it. Hi, so I'm back from the art store, and it was definitely a lot more crowded than U Arts, which I visited in the summer. I think it was raining today, and it's attached to the mall, which I didn't realize. So it just had a lot of customers, and I felt really pretty self-conscious recording at the beginning. But I really enjoyed Kawachi. It's a much bigger store than the other store I visited, but it did have fewer like really cutesy kind of stuff and kind of like unique things, I would say. But in terms of like a practical art store, it was very well stocked, and there were still cute stationery and cute things as well. I just didn't have time to show everything. but and I got really hungry, frankly. So I really just focused on the art supplies. I needed to get like a big piece of paper, and I just got some ink and some masking tape and a couple other types of paper, but that was it. I showed great restraint, but I really recommend Kawachi. I think having it at the malls plus and minuses. You know, if you're already shopping and you want to see other shops in Japan, in Osaka, I think it's great. But if you want a more quiet, maybe contemplative art shopping experience, there's probably another branch that is bigger and is a little less crowded. So I'm going to eat my kebab, which I bought on the way home. And thanks so much for watching. Bye!